Okay, I think we can start. Great. Listen to me. Great. So, data is the food for AI. And just as you wouldn't want to eat low quality food, you shouldn't feed your low AI model with low quality data. In many industries, the only way to get AI to work is to have high quality data. This quote from Andrew Ng perfectly reframes the classic garbage in, garbage out reality that we all face. But I love this analogy because it goes much deeper than its surface level. If you flip it around, it reveals a harsh truth about modern data platforms. Just like the daily food environments that we navigate, we often don't have a choice about what data is coming to our lakehouse. When you cannot choose every raw ingredient that is coming into your ecosystem, your only real line of defense is how you govern, process, and filter it. And this is exactly where our architectural journey begins. I'm Leandro. I'm working as a senior data engineer at Schwarz Digits Spain. And today, I want to take you behind the scenes of this adventure. And like in any good adventure, it begins with a challenge. In this case, a massive organizational shift, one that brought a sudden and an overwhelming waves of new data sources coming in. I will share with you how we decided to, instead of going manually police these incoming sources, why we decided to go with and turn our entire focus to an automated governance. So this is how we turn a potential data swamp into a scalable engine for AI. But first things first, let me tell you who we are. We are part of the Phar Group, one of the biggest retailing companies in Europe, and our most famous brand is Lidl. A few years ago, we decided to launch our loyalty program for the Lidl supermarkets. This loyalty program was called Lidl Plus, and it was based in an application mobile. In that moment, we decided to go with an event-driven architecture, which basically is based in our data contract API, and we basically could control what kind of data was coming to our lakehouse. It was a great decision because it could help us grow to the huge number that you see on the screen. We were receiving 400 million of events every day, what is about 640 gigabytes coming in every day to our lakehouse. And in that moment, our lakehouse had stored 5 petabytes of data. So you can imagine that's a lot of data, right? But remember, that was only for the loyalty program. So imagine how we felt when we were told that the entire Lidl e-commerce ecosystem was coming to our platform too. We needed to take a big step forward. The loyalty program was easy for us because we knew it very well. And even with the event-driven architecture, we could control the events that was coming to our lakehouse. But the Lidl e-commerce was a different story. It was an already working machine. They had their own ways of moving data, and even they had their own business reports and business requirements. And more importantly, the data that they were managing were unpredictable for us. So in this case, this was a huge challenge for us because we needed to integrate all this data from different complex and cross-domain requirements. We knew it, but that what worked for the loyalty program would not work here. We needed a completely way of thinking. But before digging into the details about this transformation and how we solved this challenge, I want to show you the technical details of the architectures that we have right now and the one that we were using for the loyalty program. So here is the Phar Data Market. The Phar Data Market is a centralized setup with one big catalog. So all the events that we were receiving, we put it into a bronze layer. Then we had a team that was activating it and moving it to a silver layer. And finally, we have several gold layers, okay? So These whole layers were like playground for our consumers. Basically, this is where they created all the reports and calculated the KPIs, and more importantly, where they were storing the tables created for the AI models. This architecture worked perfectly for a long time. But for the e-commerce was completely different. We know that it will not be able to handle the entire volume that we were facing. So, if you could not control the data that is coming in, what could control? Of course, I gave you a hint earlier, you need to put the focus on governance. And that's why we decided to go and create the Phar Lakehouse. This architecture, you can think it more or less like a data mesh. Okay, so instead of having one big catalog, we deploy a catalog per each team's purpose, basically what they need to do. They get automatically built a Medallion architecture ready to use. So what they will receive, it's a bronze layer to process the data, a silver layer to clean it, and a single gold layer in this case. This flow feels very natural for our users because it guides them to do the things the right way. And another important huge improvement for our side is that in the Phar data market, we had the storage and Unity Catalog rules separated in two different repositories. For Phar Lakehouse, we decided to put both together in the exact same automated pipeline. And it was, of course, a totally game changer for us. So how do you actually deploy this standard setup for every single team? The answer is simple: automation. And if you want to build a standardized architecture at a scale, you cannot do it manually. It takes too much time and it creates too many errors that you need to rely on an infrastructure as a code tool. In our case, we choose Terraform. And by using this tool, we can automatically build the exact same structure for every single team. It makes things fast, clean, and reliable. So to explain you this automation, I will follow a top-down approach. So here is the black box, okay? This black box is a reusable module that does all the heavy lifting for us. The best part is how easy it is to use, because when a team needs a new catalog, the only thing that we need to do is to fill out the single file, the configuration file, which is a TF-bar, and we have one per each catalog that we have deployed. So basically, we send this TF-bar to our Terraform project, it will read it, and it will deploy automatically the infrastructure, comparing the current state and the desired state. This, as you can see, black box, is divided into three different layers. And if we take a look inside this black box, we will see the three different layers that I mentioned before. So first, we have the catalog layer. This is where all the Databricks stuff is deployed. Basically, the catalogs, the schemas, and the user's permission, which is also called grant. With this user permission, we design an airbag model based on user group. So for each schema, bronze, silver, and gold, we have one reader group, one writer group, and an owner group. That means that if a user is part or member of a reader group, then it will have the select privileges, but not the modifier one. This is very important for something that I will talk later. Secondly, we have the storage layer. This is where we actually deploy the storage account that holds the data from the Delta tables. In this module, we are also deploying the configuration for security and networking, so we can keep the data safe. Finally, we have the authentication layer. This module works as a bridge between Databricks and the cloud. So this is where we are deploying the storage credentials and the data access connectors, so Databricks can read and write the data in the cloud. By separating these three layers, our project keeps organized, reliable, and of course, secure. So in short, this is exactly what gets built automatically every time that a team needs a new catalog. So to recap the flow, users put the raw data into bronze, they clean it and move it to silver, and then create their business reports, calculating the KPIs and deploying the AI models inside the gold schema. Another quick note here, our users are also developing their AI models function, and all these components are also managed by and governed by Unity Catalog in this case. On top of the Medallion architecture, the user can also request a version for PII. So that means that we can keep the sensitive and non-sensitive data isolated from each other. Because as you can see in the diagram, every schema has their own storage account. And this is very important to keep both use cases separated. We deploy more than just a Medallion architecture. We can also deploy an utilities schema. So this is a safe place for configuration files. Basically, all the different data that is not related to the business directly. So our users don't mix with the main Delta tables. And of course, we know that some users have unique needs. They can also request the data mart. But no matter what they ask for, all the components follow the same rule. They are being centralized, managed by this Terraform project, so we can stick to our main value. So far, I have a talk about our big organizational shift and the challenges that appear with that, and also the hard decisions that we made by using automation. Now, like any good story, it's time for the resolution, no? And so now let's look to the results and how this new model actually performed for us after 1 full year in production. We achieved 3 main benefits. The first one, we created a standardized foundation. So every team now gets the exact same structure when they ask for a new catalog. This standardized foundation also is important because we can connect easily between workspaces. So nowadays, our main business catalog is being accessed by 65 different workspaces. The second, we could achieve an automated scaling. When a team needs a new catalog, it gets deployed in a few minutes. Currently, we could deploy more than 30 new catalogs, and our users have built more than 2,000 tables only in a year. And finally, we could achieve security at scale. Because of this airbag model that we designed, we could easily connect to our roles management system inside the company. So if a user needs to get access for a gold schema, this user can directly request this role through this portal, and the data owner will approve it. This means that our users, our data teams, get autonomy instantly. And of course, for the platform team, means way fewer support tickets. So to close my presentation, let's bring back again the food analogy. Having a data good governance, it's like having a good diet strategy. It takes discipline. You need to at least measure the calories that you are consuming. If data is the food for AI, as Andrew Ng said, then governance is the discipline that keeps it from eating junk food. When you have a massive amount of data sources coming in, things can easily go wild. This is where the automated governance makes the difference between a data platform that helps AI models grow successfully and one that fails because of the bad ingredients. If you keep your data governance smart and disciplined, your AI models will be smart and healthy too. So I'll leave you with a final question. Are you governing your AI's diet or just hoping for a healthy model? Thank you so much.